Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Hey, Joe. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I'm so excited to have you on the show again this morning. You know, I think that our Rich told you, you haven't been down here at all. You don't even know where the station is anymore, probably.
It's the same building. Right?
I know, teasing you.
It's just that you're across the hall.
Yeah, right. Well, I miss seeing you.
Because I thought he was off across the hall.
Oh, no.
And he said, no, he's just on the other side of the room.
Well, it's so nice to talk to you. You know, I really missed you. You know, years ago, I thought when we all first started, you and I would come and you'd be here every Saturday morning. No, once a month, and then we'd go to breakfast, and it was a wonderful thing that we built up. And it's too far now for you to come down, isn't it?
It's a little too far, although I may be able to do it a little more frequently because it's a little bit later.
Oh,
Getting
good.
Down at 7:30 to Boca was a whole other world, so I'll see what I can do, okay?
But just once in a while, you know, because
but now I can 8:30's a whole other time.
Okay. I think you can get here in, what, about 45 minutes?
Yeah, but it's a big difference when it's 45 minutes and I'm due there at 7:30.
Yeah, right, I know.
I would leave my house before 6 just to make sure there was no traffic stop.
Right. Anyway, it's so nice,
leaving
though,
a little
to
before 7, leaving at 7:30 for 8:30 or 7:20 is a lot easier.
Right. Well, it's all...
We're not on the air yet.
Yes, we are. We're on the air. Absolutely. We're doing this. Everybody gets to know you and what your situation is. Okay,
well, the other lady who just finished clearly didn't know you well enough because you knew her from reading her book.
Yes.
But for anybody to tell you to take it easy, they don't really understand who you are.
That's
take
true.
It easy is the antithesis of ANITA.
I know. But it's okay. It's like you. It's the same thing. You know, it's interesting. One idea brings another idea, and if I were a multimillionaire, I would really be able to do it. But I have too many things going, and there's too few people to help me. That's the problem.
Well, it's called prioritizing what you want to accomplish.
I guess it is, and you did that. You were very good at that. I know.
I work hard at it, and I have enough people to keep me in line, including my wife.
Right.
So I have enough people keeping me in line to do that.
Right. Well, let's just go into this, who you really are, because, you know, a lot of times we just jump into this, but for people maybe, and we always have new people listening. So, and I don't think I've had you on Facebook Live. That's a good reason for you to come down, because I just had this wonderful guy that invented this product called Banana Wave. He's great. He's a entrepreneur beyond your belief, and it's a banana drink, which is fantastic. It's in Whole Foods and all. And he was on, I don't think he's ever been on Facebook Live, although he talks all over the country. And so I want to do the same thing with you. If you come down, because I can only do it if you're in this, put you on Facebook Live.
We'll figure out a time and which one, because I normally book haircuts right after my radio show. Because
you have a haircut guy down here?
Them out. What?
You have someone down here, or you have to be up north? That's what you're saying.
No, I call in, and then I run to get my haircut.
I see. Okay, well, this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to try to talk about you first on this show. You know, we go into all the issues of what elder law is and what people need to know, but who is really Joe KARP? And that's what I think people would like to know this time, if you don't mind. Joe KARP has been he's really been a lawyer for a long time, but he started in a different field of law, and I thought maybe you ought to just tell everybody who you are and about your family. People would like that today.
Okay. I'll give them a little background.
Okay.
Some of which you may know, some of which you may not.
Okay.
I'm originally from a town called West New York, New Jersey, where my family lived in a stereotypical walk-up apartment. My father had a candy store. I have two brothers, Marshall, who's a writer, and Harold, who was in advertising as a writer. And we were raised there in West New York. I went to grammar school at a yeshiva, and I went to a public high school. Then I went in the middle of the 60s. I started college, and I went to Rutgers University. It was during the Vietnam era when the world was upside down for my generation, so every generation has its upside down. I decided I didn't like college full-time, so I dropped out. And I decided to go to college at night, and I moved into Greenwich Village, where I lived for a period of time until I saw that my parents needed some financial assistance, and I moved back to live with them to assist them while I continued to go to college at night. I graduated college at night, and then I went to Brooklyn Law School at night. I worked full-time days through that. My jobs while working through that whole experience was in college. I worked at the New York Times in classified advertising. I handled their death notice desk for 2 years. So I was the guy taking the paid obituary notices and making sure they were accurate. And as you can well imagine, if the New York Times reports you're dead, you're dead. Even though it's not reported, it's printed. And if the New York Times says your funeral is at 11 o'clock on Tuesday morning, and it was 9 o'clock, a lot of people won't show up at your funeral. So you had to make sure of the accuracy of that. And I got to see some of the traditional boring obituaries, paid death notices. Actually, obituaries are the news articles that we see written. And I'd see some of the humorous ones where it would say, all about Uncle Al, and Uncle Al died, and it would say, he would be glad to know the Yankees won last night. You'd see those interesting little things. After that, I got a job as I worked my last year of law school. While I was in law school, I also worked as an insurance adjuster for Liberty Mutual Insurance before they had the guy running around with the Big Bird. And then I worked at the Bronx District Attorney's Office as a student intern. And then I became an assistant DA in the Bronx, and I worked there from 74 to 77. And then I came down to Florida. I worked as an assistant public defender for a year. When I came down, my wife Debbie and I married before we came down. She has been the light of my life. The way I met Debbie is unusual, to say the least. She was a juror in a case that I tried, and I got permission from the judge after the trial to go approach the jury. So that's a little bit of background, and we're married 43 years.
Wow.
And we have 2 sons, Ben and John. John is a lawyer in the firm. Ben has graduated law school and is deciding what he wants to do, whether he wants to come to the family business or he wants to go elsewhere, and whether he wants to do law. And he's going to make a wise and smart decision. So that's a little bit of that background. So we came to Florida. That's where my children were born. They are native Floridians. And when I first started here, everybody said, well, there are no native Floridians here. Well, now there's a bunch of them, including my 2 sons. I initially, after leaving the public defender, started a law firm with another guy. He left shortly after because he didn't like running a business. Then I was with several other guys where we had a law firm, and we all got along, but it was just not the right mix for running a business because everybody had different business ideas. And then I started to be on my own, and that's over 30 years ago that I went on my own without any partners. I first was continuing my practice where I was doing criminal law and trial work. I had handled murder 1 cases. I wrote a writ of certiorari in a death penalty case in the Supreme Court of the United States for a guy on death row. I handled large divorces, class actions. If there was a place to go to court, I would do it. And then one day I decided that, remember, I was this guy who was the child of the 60s who moved to Greenwich Village, and I was tired of doing battles. I really wanted to help people. My first goal when I signed up for law school was I wanted to be what was known back then as a poverty lawyer. Except when I looked in the field for jobs, I discovered that as a poverty lawyer, you were in worse economic shape than your client. So I didn't realize that defined the lawyer as well as the people you were facilitating and assisting, and I wanted to at least make a decent living. I didn't plan on counting on great wealth, but I wanted a decent living, and I also saw when I was planning it that most poverty lawyers were dependent upon government funding for the agency they were working for, and that was getting cut back constantly. First thing to go was that, sort of like if you're a teacher, what do you know? In the school, the arts department and the music department are going to get cut, even if they have to buy new uniforms for the football team. They'll find money in the budget for that. So there are certain areas just in life itself that get cut back. So I was working for the DA's office, and I moved on and got into this area. And then finally, when I decided I wanted to change my practice, that I was tired of being a gladiator for some people who I firmly believed in, for some people who I believed in their rights, even if I didn't believe in them. And that could have been in a criminal case or a divorce case. You had to follow the law and serve your clients' rights ethically. I decided I would get into estate planning and evolved very quickly into elder law because I saw that was a niche in which I could help people. I come from a working class background, not a middle class background. I think there's a difference. I refer to my family as being a no-collar family, not even a blue-collar family. And my brothers and I have all done well. My brothers are both successful in their careers. My brother Marshall has written a number of bestsellers. My brother Harold has written many advertising things that everybody here would know. He was going into just a simple one: friends don't let friends drive drunk. That was my brother's ad like 30 or 40 years ago. So and Marshall, when he was in advertising, did Thank You, Payne Weber, among other things that people would be familiar with. So I decided to transfer my practice, and my wife was totally supportive, without which I couldn't have done it, because I had been successful. I had been AV rated, which is the highest rating you can get as a lawyer is in trial work and for my practice. And we were living nicely, not luxuriously, but my kids were in private school. We didn't have to worry about the cost of health care, and we lived a nice, modest lifestyle. We lived in the same house and drove cars till they died, but we did all the right things, and we're doing that. But I was very tired of litigation. I always found in litigation you had many adversaries. The judge was your adversary. The other lawyer was your adversary. The opposing side, if it was a civil case, or the victim in a crime, looked upon you as adversarial. And frequently, sometimes your client did, because if your client was in a divorce case, they just didn't understand why you couldn't just get this thing over with. And because the other side and the judge are there too. Or why in a criminal case, you telling somebody who was caught with their pants down that they were going to have a difficult road to hoe. And even if the people were innocent, they couldn't understand why that couldn't be resolved. And I said, you know what? My goal was to help people. And I wanted to help people who would appreciate the help. And I wanted to help people avoid problems rather than eliminate the problem. So I wasn't the pre-marriage counselor, so I couldn't help people avoid divorces. I wasn't somebody who could stop somebody and say, don't commit that crime. But I could help people handling their estate affairs so that they could avoid the court system, minimize the expense, expedite the manner in which estates could be disposed of, trying to make sure that when they did their plan, part of my things in my estate planning is I sort of take the Hippocratic Oath, which is just like a doctor. The lawyer should do no harm. The lawyer should analyze with the clients the effect of their estate plan. Make sure that it's a do no harm situation. So I felt I was in the mode I wanted to be with mostly middle class people and helping them. And then with regard to adding Medicaid planning and Medicaid work and VA work to the firm, it was a natural fit. How to help people get the best advantage of their legal rights above board and with integrity so they could maintain a quality of life. If you have a husband who's 78 and a wife who's 75 and they have $500,000 and he ends up with Alzheimer's, she can't live thinking that she's going to have to spend $10,000 a month for the rest of their money or for the bulk of their money in order to survive, because that's going to run out in 5 years. And then what is she going to do when she's broke? How can we ensure an attempt to protect her quality of life, which is what her husband would have wanted as well if he was lights on and with us, and very frequently when they come in, he is. He's early stages of Alzheimer's and says, I want to make sure my wife is protected. I don't want this disease to take me and take her. Or when the families come in, when it's a sudden event, like my mother had a stroke, so sometimes, but hopefully if they've been my clients, we've done some preparation that the legal documents authorize the kind of behavior that we need. So it became my desire to assist people to avoid the problems, how to avoid going broke in a nursing home, how to protect your assets, and how you can maintain the most control of those while you're protecting them, because you don't want to take the money and take it out of the fire and put it into the frying pan. So that's sort of how I
Wow, that was pretty good.
Practice.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I'm still a Brooklyn Dodger fan as well, for those of you who are listening.
Pretty good, I would say. Wow. Well, I love what you just told us. And of course, I have to add this, that Joe has, of course, done our planning, our financial, our legal planning. But more than that, he's a friend. He acts that way. He's kind. He's nice. He's fun. And he does have a fabulous wife. So, Joe, maybe we ought to take a minute and tell him about the way you can meet Joe without even having to go to his offices, go to his seminars. So tell us about your seminars in March.
No, I'll tell you about the ones in February.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm already into March. Tell us the ones in February, please.
And I'll tell a couple of things. First of all, if you go to my website, KARP Law, KARPLAW.com, you'll see information on it. You'll see stuff about the firm, and you'll see the information on the seminar. So if you write that down, you don't have to worry about this. You can just register it. We're doing 3 seminars in the month of February in Port St. Lucie, where we have a location. It'll be at the Holiday Inn, where we don't have a location, so you're not coming into the bedroom at the Holiday Inn to meet us. On Tuesday, February 25th, we start at 1:30. We end by 4. We start on time. I fight desperately to end on time, but we do start on time. And at these workshops, we talk about traditional estate planning, trusts, why they are still of importance even if it has nothing to do with tax planning. We talk about Medicaid and nursing homes. We talk about what you can do, can't do, should do, shouldn't do. We talk about veterans benefits for veterans or their widows who may need assistance at home or in nursing homes, how to get that, what you can do. The veteran had to serve honorably during wartime, so you always have to know your dates, and they've changed the law dramatically, so it's not as viable an entity as it was 2 years ago, but it's still there. So that's Port St. Lucie. Then in Palm Beach Gardens, Wednesday, February 26th, that's the next day, same times, 1:30 to 4 at the Marriott Hotel off RCA Boulevard. And that'll be the last one there for several months because they're renovating. And they've told us as of February 27th, there's not going to be any bathrooms around.
Oh, really?
So So they're doing, or conveniently for people to get to, so we don't know where we're doing March and April, or if we're doing March and April, what we'll do. So that's Wednesday, February 26th. And then Boynton Beach at the Marriott's Courtyard on Congress between Boynton Beach Boulevard and Gateway, Thursday, February 27th, same times. People who attend those workshops will get a couple of things. First, they're going to get a lot of information. They'll get some fresh cookies, and they'll get some stale jokes. But they will have an opportunity to hear a bunch of information, much of which they have never heard or is counterintuitive to anything they've ever believed. And that's an important thing, to get the knowledge. And as I spoke to a group of lawyers the other night, and I got to Medicaid, and this was in a retired lawyers group in a financially upscale community. And I said, I'm going to talk about Medicaid for you now, and you may not need it. In fact, I suspect none of you will ever need Medicaid. But I bet you have a sister-in-law who might need it, or you're going to be writing the check. You have an unsophisticated cousin who might need some advice as to what they can do so they don't deplete their assets. So I always tell people, even if it's not for you, you become, and these guys and ladies were lawyers, so they got it. The family always comes to them for advice. Trust me. I'm everybody's Uncle Joe in the family because I'm a lawyer. They always come for advice, even if it's things I don't know, because they know I'll figure it out or I'll tell them the best way to get it. So we talk about that stuff, and we offer people who stay who show up for the seminar, we offer people who come an opportunity to schedule a free consultation if we think we can help them. And that's, who can't we help? Well, if you come in and you're a resident of Pennsylvania, it's still worth coming. You'll get some information, you'll get some knowledge, and it may be broad-based knowledge that you can take home and say, well, while I'm in Pennsylvania, I better find a certified elder law attorney who can help me or help my sister or whatever. So, but I can't help the person from Pennsylvania. I don't practice law there. I don't know their laws, but I know the big picture laws, and they can learn from that. So those are people I can't help. And occasionally there's somebody I can't help because they're coming in and they think because they're a senior and I practice elder law, if they're in a retirement community and they're having a problem with their condo association, since they're elder, I can help them. And I say, no, I can't. I don't do that. And every once in a while, it's somebody with a great case of chutzpah. Who's that? It's the person who went to my seminar in May, making up the months. They make an appointment to see us. We meet with them. We explain what they need and why. And they've already heard our fees at the seminar because we quote them. They then leave us, and they're snowbirds, but they're Floridians. And then in November, they show up at our seminar again, and they say they'd like an appointment. And they check off on the box that they have a trust. Well, if you thought I was that good, you should have stayed with me. Don't ask me to check the trust of the other guy that you did after I told you need a trust. I can't help you because you've got chutzpah. But for 95% of the people who want to come in, they're totally appropriate. We want to help them. And if they've done a trust with somebody else, that's not a problem. 50 to 60% of the people who come and make appointments already have estate planning documents, but they never met with us, and they want a second opinion after they've heard what we said. And getting a second opinion from a professional at no cost ain't a bad deal.
And Joe, ain't a bad deal, and we're out of time, and you did a great job today. I know you weren't prepared for this, but I did learn a lot about you. You are really an interesting guy, and you do have a wonderful family, and you are very special, and we're going to make a date so you can come down here and be on Facebook Live so everyone can see you. And I thank you so much for being with us this morning.
May I give my phone number?
Sure, please do that.
Our phone number, if you want to come in for a paid consultation or you need further information, I'll just give you the toll-free number, 1-800-893-9911, 1-800-893-9911, and the website, which you can share with your children as well. So they say, who you going to see? Let them look up our firm, KARP Law, KARPLAW.com.
Thank you.
Have a great Valentine's
Thank you.
Day,
You too,
everybody.
Joe. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Okay,
all right.
bye-bye.
Bye.